Pierre-Eliott, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to meet you, actually. We don't really know each other, so we will discover each other during this episode. Pierre-Eliott, if you want to introduce yourself quickly, and then we dive into GTM.
Yes, thanks, Jeremy. I'm super excited to be here. So I'm Pierre-Eliott. I'm co-founder and CEO of Gojiberry AI. We're building AI agents that find your next customers and book qualified sales meeting with them. We were just in the last YC batch, so P26, that ended 2 weeks ago. Yeah, happy to share here what we do, our growth, like the strategies we implemented to grow fast. And happy to have that talk with you.
Yeah, me too. I already have 1,000 of questions, so we'll start right now. But first of all, I would like to congratulate you. Congratulations on being in the YC. That's amazing. It's good to see some French people being successful like this, and I'm sure you're already having an impressive growth, and we will dive into this right now. Right before we start, what was the idea of Gojiberry? Because this is a red ocean market, definitely. There are plenty of tools, but you arrive on a point where you release a SaaS, and at the same time, we say SaaS is dying because of Claude and everything. So what's the vision for Gojiberry? And we start there, and then we'll dive into it.
Yeah, of course. So, with my co-founders, especially Roman, because we've known for 8 years, each other for 8 years. So we've done a lot of go-to-market. So we've done a lot of outbound content. We always bootstrap companies with, different acquisition methods we could find without spending a lot of money, right? And so we tried a lot of tools, we tried a lot of strategies over the past years, and we realized that the market was actually a bit broken because tools were either complicated, hard to use, or you had to put together 5 tools at the same time to get a workflow that is working. And we were also missing that intelligence part in the product. So right now, I'm talking to a lot of salespeople, and when they use sales tools or GTM tools, the problem is sometimes they don't have the knowledge of what's working right now in their market. And so what's happening is they have the tool, they know how to use the tool somehow, but they don't know what to do. They don't know what strategy, what playbook to run. And that's what we're trying to build. So we built Gojiberry first because we wanted to solve a problem, but then the next phase of the vision is we want our agents to get smarter and smarter over time and to get better with the more they run, the more they find people, they find companies, they reach out to people, the more they book meetings, the more they get smart and they know what's working. So what we do is we're building an intelligence that is fed by all our customers. We map them by industry, and based on what's working inside an industry, we are able to extract what's working and put these best practices into other similar companies. So for example, let's say you have a SaaS product in HR tech, and we know that in your market right now, that strategy that is working, like this angle that is performing and getting results, will apply directly to your accounts to make sure you get the best results immediately. And so instead of having this period where you start using a tool and you're like, oh, what can I do? What type of message can I send? And you guess what you can do. And then you end up asking Claude or ChatGPT, hey, what strategy can I do? What message can I send? The problem is those LLMs, they have data, but they don't have the data of what's working, right? They just have data that they found on the internet or whatever else. So on our side, what we're trying to do is we're trying to provide best practices and intelligence based on actually what's working right now in your industry, because we have the data, because we have 2,000 customers right now. The direction we are taking right now.
That's very interesting. So you're covering actually 2 parts of the same thing. Like when you have your go-to-market strategy, you have to focus on the tools, having the right tools, using the right channels, reach out to the right person, etc., and the strategy. And usually, back in the days, let's say, you would do it yourself and you would test your hypothesis based on your own experience and, as you said, your research, probably using AI tools. And then you would probably hire a lead gen agency and say, okay, this is my ECP, this is my strategy. Now I need you to set up 5 or 6 tools, as you said, to try this hypothesis. At least that's the good version of seeing it. I made some content about lead gen recently. Most of the time, the expectation was wrong and they were expecting leads directly, but actually the reality is to test this hypothesis. And you're coming at those 2 pain points actually in one tool, right?
The goal is that the dream experience that we started to have, we're actually very close from it, is you just enter your website and our AI will understand everything about your company, like the context, competitors, just based on the website. And then based on that, the AI will tell you, hey, you should do this strategy, this strategy, this strategy. And we'll tell you, hey, can we do it? Just click and we'll do that strategy. And then you click on the strategy and it will deploy the strategy immediately. And it's going to learn from the strategy. Like, okay, we launched this strategy. Did it book meetings for you? Or did it provide some outcomes, some interesting replies? And if the result is yes, okay, we're going to focus on that strategy more. We're going to find more of that. If it didn't work, okay, we're going to try something else. And actually right now, this is something that is made by a human. So that costs money. And those humans are very rare because it's either, as you said, you hire an agency, but an agency, it's expensive, it's time consuming. And also the problem is that you don't internalize the knowledge. It's somebody outside of your company. And so we're trying to get you an AI system that has this knowledge. And so it's going to be also the go-to-market brain of your company. It knows everything about your company, your strategies, plus what's working in your industry as well.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I have a lot of questions, but I'll start with this one. So basically, the more users you have, the smarter those agents are going to be.
Yeah.
Because the problem with, let's say, general LLMs, like when you get them out of the box, they are generic. And that's also why we see so many generic outbound in our inboxes, probably. And then you have the nerds like us who like to dive deeper and create their own agents. And then you train them, but only on your company data, which is already great, and you can do amazing stuff with that. But now you're adding a new layer, which is not only you have your own company data, internal data and knowledge and experience and everything, but also you benefit from basically your competitors that are using.
Yeah, or similar companies, or even like other companies, because for example, there are some things that could be applied to any company. I'm going to give you an example. When you say an outbound message, you know that there are some best practices in terms of length of the message, like how many words or characters you should send. And actually this data, it's not going to be very different from an industry to another. It's more like, common practices. And so what we're trying to build is also being able to know that data. Like, hey, we've seen that in all our customers, this message size is actually the one that performed the best. So we recommend to do that length or around that length, We try to build like different intelligence. We call it like 3 layers. The first one is the account of the customer. So it's going to learn from what's only happening in the accounts, user feedback, and so on. Then it's going to learn at the industry level. So similar companies. It could be competitors or just companies in your space. And the last one is all the companies. Like there are some best practices, as I just said, that could be applied to every company that run outbound, for example.
Absolutely. That's very smart, actually. That leads me to my next question, which is, once you have applied the best practices, like that's already a big win. When we look at our emails inboxes, we can see that not everybody is applying the best practices. So once you're getting there, so you get to what I call the new norm, which is like, okay, being relevant and on time. Like you track signals, you do your research, and you send something to the right person that is relevant to them. That's the first standard, I would say.
Yeah.
Once you get there, and I'm using this vocabulary coined by Clay, they talk about getting alpha, the GTM alpha, and they took it from the finance industry themselves, which is the alpha means that you have an insight, an info on the market before the others, before your competitors, basically, or something unique that only you can detect. Like maybe you combine a few signals and together you can see something that someone else couldn't. And then you use this alpha, this very niche or very specific point in your campaigns. Is that something you're adding to the tool? Is it available, or is it like, okay, we help them getting to the standard and then that's on them, our customers, to get to the alpha? What's the vision on that?
It's a good question. I think the goal, of course, is that you can have like the best practices, but your agent will always be trying new strategies to try to detect new things. And so what we'll build next is the agent will launch automatically new strategies and propose new strategies, even if like it wasn't detected to be something working elsewhere. You're just like, oh, there is also this strategy, or you could target this ICP or these signals. Can I try it? Like the goal is that the agent will tell you, can I try it? Can I launch it? And you just say yes. And the agent will launch it and measure the results like, oh, it didn't work, so I'm just going to stop this strategy and try something else until it has something that is working. And then, of course, the goal is that it finds and discovers new things that are working, and it will apply them for you until it becomes also something that other people use. What's actually happening right now in the market is that someone discovers something, just tries to do it like until it doesn't work anymore, or at some point where it gets saturated. It shares also that strategy with other people so they can also use it. Actually, right now, it's actually how it works, but it's more with the word of mouth and people talking about it on social media, like, hey, I've done that strategy, it worked well, copy my strategy, those kind of things, which is fine. But I do think we want to replicate that with just an AI. And so you don't have to go on social media, see who is doing what. You just like your AI knows based on what's happening on, other accounts. And of course, we always want to have that, mindset of trying new strategies, because we always want to be, I think, on the innovation of outbound as well. Like, how can you find new strategies that are working right now, new type of signals, new ways to better personalize your messages. And this is also one of the role of the agents.
No, that's great. So you have your agent advising you to say, okay, this is what works. Do that first. And then this is the experimentation area of my strategy. And you can try this, you can try that. I would suggest this, I would suggest that. Okay. That's basically replicating what a good lead gen agency would do. Like focus on what will work for sure. I mean, never sure with outbound, but what will work, bigger chances to work, and then only apply more exotic strategies to find a new age. Cool. That's very interesting. And what about continuing my chain of thought on this? If this AI is your strategist and it does what we just described, will it as well take into consideration like your TAM? So of course, if you're selling, cheap products to a huge TAM or high, super expensive services to a small TAM, the strategy is not the same. Will it take this into consideration as well? I guess yes, but how does it work?
It's going to map your the best industries for you to focus on, the company size, like the job titles and people you should go after. But then it's going to depend. Like if you have, as you said, like a very large TAM, we'll try to focus on some part of the TAM first and find the right people and signals and so on. Because of course we're going to track 1 million people at the same time. And what we want to do also is, if you have a small TAM, or if you go after a certain size of territory or like a certain type of accounts, we want to be able to only go after those accounts. And maybe we'll recommend you some new accounts we identified that could match as well. But if you want to go after, let's say, only 200 companies, we can enable you to do it if you want to import your companies, because there are some sales teams who have a very specific organization where they only want to go after 200 companies, for example. And so the agent doesn't have this information until you give the information. Yeah. And so if you have it, of course, we can do it.
Yeah, I see. And so from there, you would have different strategies. You can have a pure, let's say, mass outbound, quote unquote mass, modern mass, relevant mass for if your TAM is quite big. But if you have a, let's say, 200 TAM, if you want to do ABM with them, will the agent be able to kind of monitor this bucket, this market, like for typical signals, like, okay, we know that these guys just raise funds or they just open new position, they're hiring for whatever that is relevant for you in a few months or what? Like if you're getting this ABM approach, can the agent do that as well?
Yeah, so right now what's available in the product is the agent will choose a strategy and go after people that match the strategy. So let's say you go after HR tech companies in the US that are using competitors or visited your website. It could be different types of strategies. We can do that. Now the ABM approach is not yet available in the product. So you can what you can do is you can upload like people, but you cannot yet upload accounts where we track signals on top of that. That's one of the next phase of the product.
I see. Great. Makes sense. Yeah, very interesting. Before we dive into how it works for you and how you had this such an impressive growth in the last few months, and it's just the beginning. There are multiple phases. What are your thoughts on the market, which is being disrupted a lot by Claude Code and Codex and those tools, as we mentioned before? What's the vision for you against those agents that are not Gojiberry agents, if you want to know what I mean?
Yeah, like people always like to say, hey, your business is going to be replaced by Claude. I do think that actually it's a good thing, because the more the models and capabilities will be good, the better Gojiberry will be. Because what we're trying to do now wasn't possible like 1 year ago, because 1 year ago you could do AI automations, you could do chats, you could analyze a certain amount of data. Of course, AI was great, but it was not great to analyze a strategy, learn from it, deploy a strategy. It was bad at those things. Yeah. And so right now with the new models, it's possible, and it's going to be better and better over time. So actually, we are looking forward to those times where Claude get even better, because our AI will also be better as well. And we're not very afraid of them trying to replace us or something similar, because I think those AI are great for horizontal things. Like you can do a lot of things, but if you want to be very, very, very good at something, like with a vertical, they are not that great. And I know that they're trying to go in some verticals, but they are more trying to go in the health sector, like they launched, I think, Claude for research or something like that, but they're not going to go into like that go-to-market. It's not where they're trying to go. And actually also what we're doing that they're probably never going to do is, so the agent is connected to many tools and data sources that Claude doesn't have access to. So like right now, when you search on Claude and you say, hey, create a list of leads, Claude will try to find the companies and the leads on Google or, any other search engines. And sometimes they will give you the wrong LinkedIn link or the wrong URL or the wrong person. That happened to me a lot of times. Like sometimes 50% of the list is wrong. And so it's because they don't have access to the data sources we have access to and that we use, for example, for signals or so on. And so I think the best capabilities come from combining what we do, the sources we have, and the intelligence we have with actually the capabilities of Claude or any other LLM. Because when we combine both, we have the intelligence and reasoning of Claude, and we have the data we have and the training we have in our system. And both at the same time create the billion-dollar vision of Gojiberry.
Makes sense. And on top of that, you don't have to build it yourself with MCP or APIs. So
beginners,
of course.
They won't, like the mass market won't build
build
MCP
it
or
themselves.
APIs or
No, that's for sure. That's a good point. I agree. And do you think that being the newcomer in this new era of AI agents and stuff is an advantage for you?
I think it's an advantage because we can go fast, we can break things. We are a small team, so we can ship very fast. It's funny because we are already seeing bigger companies and players in the market that copy what we do. Like copy, like when I say copy, it's not
copy and paste.
It's obvious. Like, it's crazy. But I mean, it's fine. It's part of the game. I think it's a good sign. It means that we are in the right direction.
Good sign.
Because the big players are looking at what we do. But no, I mean, I just think like we are fast. We are a small team, and I think that's an advantage because bigger companies, they take some time to make a decision, to go in a direction. So yeah, and I think one of our strengths is that, I mean, I don't like this word, but I would say we are go-to-market experts in quotes. By that I mean that we spent our life doing outbound content and so on. So we know what we do. It's not like we wake up and we say, hey, let's do go to market. We lived that. We did also a lot of work manually trying to do list of leads for years, and things like that. So we know the problem we're solving. We know the direction that we need to take. And so that's also, I think, a strength because we have a good founder market fit that maybe other companies don't have sometimes.
No, that's for sure an advantage. You've been in the weeds, and when you talk to your customers, you're talking the same language. So
yeah.
That's for sure. That's very inspiring and very exciting. But now we want to know more about how you do it. I've been preparing a little this episode with some research on what you're building, and I of course went on your website. And one line with me was grow Gojiberry using Gojiberry. So how does that look? What's behind the scenes? How did you use this vision you described for the last few minutes in growing your own product? And obviously it's working because of the growth you have so far.
Yeah, so I think how we're using Gojiberry and the part of the growth that it created, it changed a bit over time because when we started last summer, so 1 year ago, it was like probably 50-80%, like a big number of the growth. I don't have the exact number in mind, but it was a big part of the growth because we were starting, so we're using our own tool to grow. What I mean by grow is that basically we booked demos with Gojiberry. It was very basic at the beginning, but we just explained what we were doing to our AI, and we chose some different signals and different target markets, and our agents would go after people and contact people in those markets. So we're booking like tens of demos per week using that method. And so the three of us, like the three founders, were using Gojiberry to book demos. At first, it was only LinkedIn. We didn't do email. It was just like sending LinkedIn messages and connection requests because this is the channel where you have the highest reply rates. So of course, we wanted to focus on that first. And then with the time passing, we deployed more than just Gojiberry. So we created a lot of content. We started to work also with creators and influencers in the go-to-market space. We also started to run some ads, SEO, and like a lot of different channels that compounded over time. And so now I would say Gojiberry is probably representative of 15-20% of the growth at the moment. And the biggest channel is content right now. So because as we could replicate content with influencers and creators, of course, the scale is very, very big. Gojiberry is more right now, as it does only outbound for now, it's more linked to our team and the number of people we have in the team, because each team member can have some volume, and of course it's linked to that. And so one of the strategies that works very, very well, we have a 50% reply rate with this strategy, is we track, like the agent tracks people who interact with our company and reach out to those people. So anyone who interacts with our content, that visit our LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn company page, websites, anyone who interacts with us, or a member in the team, could be an employee or someone working with us. So the agent would track that, and we'll invite the person on LinkedIn if it's not the case, and send a message to this person. And we have 50% reply rate to those people. And what we like to do as well, on LinkedIn it's very, very good. But it also depends on your niche. So we have a niche where people are highly on LinkedIn, like it's salespeople, and so that's their primary source of leads. So they are connected. So I would say it makes it also easier, even if like we have some companies that are customers that do the exact same thing. They are not focusing on salespeople, and it works great as well. It's just depending on like where you put the cursor, what's good for your type of company. For example, if you have like let's say you said compliance services, maybe for you like a 25% reply rate would be excellent. And so it depends on where you put the cursor, I think. But we do that. And the second thing we do that is working well is we also track people in our market that interact with competitors. So every time someone interacts with a GTM tool, an AI tool in our space, and what we do is we have the agent that track those people, check that it fits our ICP. So it's gonna filter and score the leads, and based on the score, it's gonna contact the person. And actually it's working well because those people, they already know their problem. They already know that solutions exist, and they already tried some solutions. And so when we talk to them, it's not like we need to explain what we do. They understand directly. And so that's also very easy for us to get a demo, or to get them actually interested enough to try the product, because we have a self-serve model. So people can just go on the website and try the agents. And it's very easy for us to get someone that does the product with this strategy. And we don't even have to take a call sometimes. Just say, hey, we saw that you were interested by AI lead generation right now. We do that. Would you like to test the product? And they just say yes. And we send them the link and they try the product. So sometimes we just don't demo. We just send the link, they try the product, and then we say, hey, I saw you try the product. Do you need help? Do you want maybe a quick demo of the platform? And then we talk with them. We show them the product. So it's gonna depend. We tried many different strategies. This one is working well. And the last one that works well is also sharing a resource or a lead magnet with someone. So what we tried at some point is, when we reach out to someone that interacted with our content, for example, if the person didn't reply, what we send is we say, hey, we created that playbook that explained how we book demos with AI. Do you want me to share it? So we do not share it. We say, do you want me to share it? And we have many people that they say yes, and then we send the playbook. And on the playbooks, you have the whole strategy. You can book a demo, you can use the product with a trial in the doc. And you have many people that come back and just say, hey, I checked the doc, can you help me? Or I have this question, and it brings tons of people to the product. So those are strategies that work very, very well. And what we did is we replicated that with creators, where they post lead magnets for us, the same kind of lead magnets, but it's more with content, not with outbound. And it has been also working very well.
Very interesting, very interesting. And I have a few questions regarding this, but I had another one that came to my mind, which is probably a bit more about the vision before we dive into what you just said. But how do you position yourself against AI SDRs? That's, similar, but not the same?
Yeah, I mean, at some point, there is some overlaps, of course, because like we do outbound both. I think we don't call us that way because AI SDRs, they're more trying, right now, what they do is they just blast the whole market, and they try to book meetings. They do a lot of volume. That's only their goal. Most of them. I don't know all of them, of course.
Yeah, I have the same experience.
Yeah, and what we're trying to do is more, we want to work intelligently, and with like our agent is more like a radar. It's going to scout your market, trying to find opportunities and reach out at the right moments. And so the goal is not to write to everyone and just try to book one meeting with 10,000 emails sent. Actually, we have a rate of interested people that is pretty high. So for example, when I contact 100 people, I have 10 people interested usually. But it depends on the industry. I'm talking about my experience. For some customer, it's going to be one, but it's one, and maybe it's a $1 million contract. So it's different. And everyone has different success in their mind. But yeah, that's the main difference. And also the other difference is that for us, outbound is just the first step. We want to replace so we think that in 2 to 3 years from now, every B2B team will have AI agents that grow their revenue autonomously. And we want to build those AI agents. So it's outbound because it was the first step for us. It was easy to measure the results and so on. Then we want to go to inbound, maybe CRM reactivation, account expansion, content. So there are many verticals we could go to.
Yeah.
And we think that if you want the agents to be performant and to have great results, you need to build that intelligence, because otherwise the agents, they will be workflows. If they're not smart, just workflows, right? And so that's why we want to combine both, like the agents plus the intelligence on top of them.
Yes, that's a very interesting question, and we can dive into this after. But first, I want to go back to what you were saying before with the winning plays that you're using. And I can't, stop myself to think that's heavily relying on LinkedIn. How do you manage the risk coming with this automating stuff on LinkedIn? I know, everybody knows that they don't really like it, but they kind of let it happen anyway because, they want the platform to be used. It's tricky. Yeah. How do you manage that?
I mean, I think at some point LinkedIn is just a channel. So right now we use them as the main channel. I mean, we launched also email, so we do multi-channel right now. It was not the case a few months ago. And so I think that right now, until we do tens of millions of dollars per year, we're still gonna use LinkedIn to send connection requests, messages, because the results are great, and because, as you said, they don't like it, but it's somehow accepted. The only thing they do is they can restrict your company page and founder's account on LinkedIn. That's actually what they did to us 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
If you try to find me on LinkedIn, I'm not available yet.
That's why I couldn't find you. Okay.
Yeah. So they just block the founders and the company page. We'll try to, I think, talk with them to see if we can come back. It's a bit hard for many reasons, but I think at some point, until we do tens of millions, we can still send messages on LinkedIn. What they don't like is if you scrape data of profile, if you resell the data, those kind of things. They don't like that. I think when you reach tens of millions of dollars per year, then you can deploy other channels. Like, for example, we can deploy calls. It's going to depend on what works in a few months, of course, but like iMessage, WhatsApp. And it could be, maybe in 2 years, it's going to be another channel that's going to work, Sure. And so on our side, we want to build the infrastructure, the intelligence, and the agents, and then we will adapt to what's actually working right now in go-to-market. And we all know that right now, LinkedIn is probably the best channel if you want to book demos. Email is great, but email is great when you combine it with LinkedIn. If you only do emails, it's good, but you need to send a lot of emails, or you need to be very, very, very relevant in order to get a reply. Even if you're very personalized in your approach, it's hard to get a reply from someone that doesn't know you. And so that's why we combine both, because this is actually the best result right now.
Yeah, makes sense. So it's a measured risk, sort of.
I would say it's a measured risk. And also there are many, many bigger companies than us that have LinkedIn as a channel.
Of course.
We are small right now. At some point, when you reach the size of Clay and Apollo, of course, I think you probably start to change some things in your products related to that. But right now, I think we want to keep it that way.
So now I want to come back to the next thing you were saying, which is agents against workflows. And that's right. Like, if it's not making decisions and if it's not reasoning, then it's basically a workflow. But sometimes you want it to be deterministic. So it's not an agent work. So how do you combine that? Are you like, okay, let's do agents anywhere, anyway, and they will figure it out and it's fine. It will always find the right answer. Or do you have both at the same time?
I think the right thing is probably, and we're still, of course, making a lot of tests, but the right thing is probably combining AI with code. So for example, it happened to us in the field, like the lead scoring. So at the beginning, we had the lead scoring where like the agent was scoring leads. It was only with AI. And we realized that there were something that actually you could just use code to score. Like, for example, the location, you don't need to use AI to know that France is France, or, like things like that. So at some point, I think it's a combination of both. I think AI is good to really understand a lot of data and then maybe, making some conclusions. And so you can use that as a feedback in your agents. And so, for example, if let's say each customer that we have is a prompt, like each customer is a different prompt, and you can feed the prompt back with the results of the agents, right? So let's say the agent had results with that strategy, it's gonna conclude something with that strategy. I book more meetings that have results, and so you can feed back the results and the outcome, like the conclusion of the agent, to the prompt of the user accounts. And so each brain will evolve and get better and better, and we have more and more information about what's working. But I think I agree with you when you say that I think the limit between like a workflow that is an AI automation and an agent, the limit for me is just the reasoning. It's just like the agent can take decisions, while the workflow will just execute something, you'll have an outcome, but then it stops here. And it doesn't go back to the feedback loop. And that's why we really are trying to build that feedback loop, because it's so much important that everything that the agent, like the workflow does, feeds the loop and the system. And so it becomes an agent because of that.
I see.
And so it learns from it. And then based on what it learns, it can deploy other strategies and take decisions. But that's actually a very hard part to build, because of course it's something I would say kind of new in the market. And a few weeks ago it was not, I'm not gonna say it was not possible, but I don't think it was great, to be honest.
I'm more on the service side of this market, and sometimes you're like, we can't build what you're asking, and the next week you can. So it's like, okay, so actually we can. But the market is evolving super fast, and every time Anthropic or OpenAI release something, it's like, okay, what broke and what? Actually, that's a good question for you as well. Like as you said, you're relying on this, but no, it will always serve you because you will have the specific context, and that's where you will always be one step ahead of a general tool. So you're in a good spot, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Pierre-Eliott. That was very interesting and very, very cool, very exciting. And I'm looking forward to what comes next for you in Gojiberry. That's very exciting.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremy. I really liked speaking and discussing with you. So yeah, let's do it again in a few months or years if you want to see the growth and the evolution.
Absolutely. We'll do another episode in a few months to see if we were completely out of our minds today and everything is outdated. But yeah, let's do that. That's cool. Thanks, Pierre-Eliott.
Cool. Thanks, Jeremy. See you. Bye-bye.